El precio del dinero,
The price of money, which we have said is its purchasing power, is determined, like the price of any other good, by supply and demand, in this case for money. We will begin by studying the demand for money. The demand for money has three components. First, there is industrial demand. Industrial demand is the demand for a medium of exchange as a consumer good or factor of production. In the case of gold, there is undoubtedly a demand for it to be used in jewelry and in many industrial processes. But in the case of paper money, this little bill I have folded, there is practically no industrial demand. Or perhaps there is. Who has been to the restaurant Maison de Candido in Segovia to eat suckling pig? No one? You have. You may have noticed that the place has an entire wall covered with framed bills, all from people who have come from abroad. Well, there we see a small industrial demand for bills from different countries, for use in decoration. But apart from that case, the industrial demand for paper money is very slight. The greatest demand for money is as a medium of exchange. This is called monetary demand, and it is the second component. The third component of the demand for money is the X factor, or expectations, and I will be discussing it. These are the three components of the demand for money. The most significant is monetary demand. Now, the greatest peculiarity of money is that our monetary demand for it arises from an intention not of consuming it, but of using it as a medium of exchange in the future. And we demand money as a medium of exchange in the future based on its purchasing power. That is, based on its price. Here we seem to run into circular reasoning, because I have said I want to explain what determines the price of money. Then I have said the supply of and demand for money determines its price. Then I have asked what determines the demand for money. And I have answered its price or purchasing power. I appear to be reasoning in a circle. There seems to be a flaw somewhere. I do not appear to explain anything, because money is demanded not to be consumed or employed as a factor of production, but for use in buying something in the future based on its purchasing power or price. And that is precisely what we must explain. Incidentally, this apparent vicious circle led many economists to mistakenly believe money required a different methodological approach, and it gave rise to the analysis of the equation of exchange, to holistic concepts like the general price level, and to macroeconomics. However, we will see that Mises, in a stroke of genius, broke this apparent vicious circle with what is called the monetary regression theorem. Mises tells us that the price or purchasing power of money today is indeed determined by the supply of and monetary demand for money today. And we human beings decide on our demand today based on the experience we have of the purchasing power of money yesterday. And if we look at the price of money yesterday, we see it was determined by the supply of and demand for money yesterday. And we human beings decided on our demand for money yesterday based on the experience we had of the purchasing power of money the day before yesterday, and so on, back in time until precisely that moment in history in which, for the first time, the demand for an economic good, gold for instance, or wheat or whatever, as a consumer good or factor of production began to overlap with monetary demand for it. The monetary regression theorem provided a solution to the apparent problem of circular reasoning, which many mistakenly thought prevented the application of marginal utility to money. Now we are going to talk about the other side, the money supply, the quantity of money.
existen en las sociedades modernas donde se ha...
In modern societies, where gold has been expropriated and a purely fiduciary paper money standard has been introduced, there are basically three procedures for injecting a new quantity of money into the market. First, the monetization of the public deficit. This means the state spends more than it takes in. And to cover the difference? Very simple. It issues paper money to pay with. The state can do this directly, and crudely, or indirectly. One indirect way of doing it is the way we see it done nowadays. The state issues government bonds. It sells government securities to raise money, and with the money it covers the deficit. But right after that, the state or central or private banks buy the government securities with newly created money. Hence, this is an indirect way of monetizing the deficit. So the first procedure for injecting money is the monetization of the public deficit. The second procedure is the process known as credit expansion. We will devote next quarter's course to studying what credit expansion consists of and what all of its effects are, in case anyone wants to sign up. It consists of instructing or allowing bankers to grant more loans from nothing at lower interest rates. There is a third procedure for injecting money, and it involves what are called open market operations. They are quite simple. The state or the monetary authorities create money, and with the newly created money, they buy securities in the stock market.